Hello there and welcome. This is ARIRANG News live from Seoul. I'm Laah Hyun-kyung. The stories we are following at this hour. At least 13 hostages are being held captive at a cafe in downtown Sydney. A black flag with Arabic writing is held up against the window. Nearby buildings are evacuated. Ahead of the 3-year anniversary of the death of the former North Korean leader Kim Jong-il, Pyongyang vows to solidify and open a new era led by its young leader, Kim Jong-un. And Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's coalition wins more than 2/3 of seats at Japan's lower house, but record low turnout may be pointing to broad dissatisfaction. But first, the situation in Sydney. At least a dozen or as many as 40 people are being held hostage at a Lindt chocolate cafe in downtown Sydney. For the latest, we connect live to ARIRANG's Kim Min-ji. So Min-ji, what's the situation now?
We're just getting word that 3 hostages have escaped from inside that cafe in Sydney. No details on who they are or how they got up, but we'll be following on that. Earlier, the Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott addressed the nation and urged people to stay calm.
Australia is a peaceful, open and generous society. Nothing should ever change that, and that's why I would urge all Australians today to go about their business as usual.
He also provided a national security hotline should people suspect that another attack is in the works. The situation at the cafe broke out just before 10 a.m. local time. People were seen with their hands in the air against the window at the Lindt chocolate shop at Martin Place, which is located in the heart of Sydney's shopping and banking district. A black flag with white Arabic writing was also held up by people inside, raising suspicions that this attack could be linked to Islamic State militants. However, reports suggest that it is not an Islamic State flag. Instead, it bears the Shahada, which is a neutral Islamic creed that's seen on things like the Saudi Arabian flag, but also embraced by jihadist groups. Police say there are unknown number of hostages inside the cafe, although reports say the number is around 20. The CEO of Lindt Australia has told various media that he believes 10 staff members and about 30 customers are inside the cafe. Police have also confirmed that they're looking at one armed suspect right now, although they say they haven't made direct contact with him yet. Police have cordoned off the area and are also temporarily controlling the airspace above Sydney. The Sydney Opera House has also been evacuated after a suspicious package was found there. And we're not really...
Right. So, Min-ji, there's really no information about who's being held captive, but there are reports that there's one Korean Australian among the hostages.
Yes, that's right. A female Korean Australian college student is reportedly among those being held. Surnamed Bae, she is believed to be one of the staff working inside the cafe. Korea's foreign ministry is trying to confirm this, and it is also communicating with local authorities to determine if there are more Koreans involved.
So we can imagine how frightening and tense the situation will be in Sydney, and the threat of a terror attack like this one has loomed over Australia for some time now. Give us a sense of how the government is reacting to this.
Yes, that's right. In September, the country raised its terror threat level and conducted large-scale counter-terror raids across the country. Also this morning, police arrested a man in Sydney on charges of terrorism offenses. But police say they don't believe this hostage situation inside the cafe has any connection to the other cases.
All right. Thank you very much, Min-ji. That was our Kim Min-ji reporting live from our news center. And we will, of course, have more information. We will deliver more information if they become available on our later newscasts. In other news, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe successfully maintains a majority at Japan's lower house. His and his coalition party won in Sunday's snap general election, but with record low voter turnout. Analysts say Abe cannot be complacent. Take a look.
Japan's ruling coalition won a landslide victory in parliamentary elections seen as a referendum on Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's economic policy. Abe's Liberal Democratic Party, together with its junior partner Komeito, retained a two-thirds majority of 475 seats in the lower house of parliament, giving them the power to pass legislation without recourse to the upper house.
I'm relieved we've managed to continue our ruling coalition with the Komeito party. But at the same time, this is also a great responsibility.
It was a crushing defeat for the main opposition Democratic Party of Japan, falling well short of the 100 seats it had unofficially targeted. Many observers say the lack of a clear political alternative to the ruling party left many voters feeling underwhelmed and questioning the need of an election in the first place. And as if reflecting the people's indifference, voter turnout was 52%, the lowest figure since World War II, and well short of the previous low of 59% set in 2012. Abe is now widely expected to push ahead with expanding the role of the military and restarting Japan's nuclear power plants. The win also gives the Prime Minister a fresh 4-year mandate to institute his economic policy known as Abenomics, which aims at reviving Japan's economy through monetary easing and strong public spending. 손정인, 아리랑 뉴스.
So how will this change or not change current Korea-Japan relations? This very question can also be posed for Japan's ties with China. Our Ji-yeon has more.
Will Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe try to mend relations with Korea and China? Experts are not very hopeful. They say because Abe won in overwhelming fashion on Sunday, he's likely to forge ahead with his right-wing agenda. Abe denies that Japan forced Korean women into sexual slavery during its colonial rule of the Korean peninsula. This has angered the Korean government, which continues to ask for an official apology and compensation for the victims. Politicians within Abe's ruling party have also denied the 1937 Nanjing massacre, in which tens of thousands of Chinese civilians were killed by invading Japanese soldiers. The list goes on. His repeated visits of Yasukuni Shrine that honors Japanese war criminals, false claims to Korea-controlled Dokdo Island in the East Sea, and efforts to revise the post-war constitution to militarize Japan. Experts say, though, that Japan does realize Korea and China as important economic and political partners, which means there's still a chance Abe might try a bit harder to deal with existing problems. As for now, eyes are on what Abe will say and do during the 70th anniversary of the end of the Second World War next year, and whether he will visit the Yasukuni Shrine again or offer a sincere apology for Japan's wartime atrocities. Ji-yeon, ARIRANG News.
It's a historic agreement on climate change. UN member countries have agreed to submit plans on how each country should tackle the issue by March next year. But differences over the agreement remain. Kim Ji-yeon has this report.
More than 190 nations agreed on new measures to combat climate change at a United Nations meeting in Lima on Sunday. The deal urges governments to submit national plans by this coming March to curb greenhouse gas emissions. The national pledges will be used as a base for establishing a global agreement at the UN Climate Change Conference in Paris next December. The Lima draft is receiving mixed reviews. Some who urge stronger action on limiting increases in global temperatures say the text is weak. Others contend the deal has appeased both rich and emerging nations, who have been divided over which side should bear a bigger burden on reducing emissions.
The way that we were able to deal with that issue between the U.S. and China in the joint announcement of a few weeks ago actually ended up coming in quite handy here, and it has found its way into this text as a way of kind of getting through that difficulty. So that was quite useful.
Korea is 7th biggest gas emitter in the world. To tackle climate change, Seoul has unveiled a carbon emission trading market where local business entities can buy or sell leftover emissions, much like a stock exchange. More than 500 companies are expected to participate in the emission trading market, which is scheduled to launch early next month. Through the system, Korea expects to reduce the amount of projected emissions by 30% by the year 2020. Kim Jong-un, ARIRANG News.
In the year 2012, for Korea was at its record high.
All of the day's important events close to home and around the world. Join Laah Hyun-kyung live from Seoul.
Shopping market thinks the true meaning of creation shines through. Lawmakers convened an extraordinary session today here in Korea, but taking center stage at the National Assembly are not pending bills, but the recent allegations surrounding Chung Yun-hwae, one of President Park Geun-hye's former close aides. The ruling Central Party contends that an investigation into the claims now underway will resolve the issue, but the main opposition is calling for a special probe and may even ask the president to reshuffle her cabinet. This comes after a local media outlet reported a few weeks ago that Chung held regular meetings with senior presidential officials and used his close ties with the president to meddle in personnel appointments. In 2 days' time, North Korea will observe the third-year anniversary of the death of former North Korean leader Kim Jong-il. Ahead of the national event, the regime made clear that the true era of current leader Kim Jong-un, who is also son of Kim Jong-il, will begin now. HWANG Sung-hee reports.
North Korea has pledged to open a new era under Kim Jong-un's leadership. Ahead of the 3-year anniversary of the death of former leader Kim Jong-il, the state-run Nodongshinmun newspaper on Sunday said the last 3 years had been sacred and passed like a hot fireball. Listing the young Kim's Pyeongjin line, or the dual development of nuclear arms and the economy, and major construction projects, it labeled the last 3 years as historic, during which time the regime had become prosperous, both ideologically and materially. Pyongyang remains isolated from the world, but it has made strides in its military capabilities. North Korea has been increasing its accuracy rate of missiles through constant test firings, launching 111 missiles through 19 rounds this year. A senior South Korean military official says North Korea is running 30 nuclear-related institutions like nuclear power plants, and speculates Pyongyang possesses around 20 nuclear weapons, which is more than double the amount from a few years ago. Another official notes the North is close to being capable of attaching a miniaturized nuclear device on a Scud missile that could reach all corners of the Korean peninsula. Experts say North Korea's confidence level is higher than ever when it comes to war readiness, and that the regime could go ahead with a 4th nuclear test next year if things don't go their way on the diplomatic front. HWANG Sung-hee, ARIRANG News.
In the meantime, the U.S. government will be providing more support for North Korean human rights issues this coming year. Included in the $1.1 trillion funding bill passed by U.S. Congress over the weekend is a plan to provide financial assistance for building and managing a database on the political prison system in North Korea. More support will also be given for the protection of North Korean defectors taking refuge in China. However, Congress will continue to ban any direct financial support to North Korea. Now, the last remaining symbol of inter-Korean cooperation, the Kaesong Industrial Complex, celebrates the 10th anniversary of its opening this month. But the factory park is said to have not reached its full potential yet. Connie Kim has more.
In December 2004, 1,000 pots were the first things to roll off the production line at the inter-Korean Kaesong Industrial Complex. Since that day 10 years ago, the complex has grown beyond all recognition. In the early days, there were just 15 South Korean businesses. Now, there are more than 120. The increase in the number of North Koreans is even more startling, jumping from 6,000 to well over 50,000 today. In terms of its economic benefits to the Koreas, South Korea has raked in more than $3 billion, while the North has brought in some $380 million since 2004. Now, that's not to say the Kaesong complex hasn't had its bumps along the way. The park is currently spread over some 3.3 million square kilometers. That might sound big, but that's just 5% of the original plan laid out. And just last year, Pyongyang unilaterally halted operations for 5 months amid heightened inter-Korean tensions. Despite the obstacles and unresolved issues, analysts say the industrial park is priceless in many ways.
The Inter-Korean Kaesong Industrial Complex is a place that goes beyond merely learning about North Korea's market economy. It's where the two Koreas realize economic cooperation, and it's a small area where the two Koreas have reunified.
Professor Yang notes a private consortium needs to be established for the two Koreas to push for the globalization of the Kaesong complex. Now, if the joint park ever reaches its full potential, watchers say it could bring in over $68 billion worth of benefits for both Koreas. Connie Kim, ARIRANG News.
South Korea has been and still is a major buyer of Western military hardware, but the nation's defense industry is also seeing growing exports. For a look at what has driven this success in recent years, here's our Kim Hyun-bin.
South Korea's defense exports have ballooned over the past 5 years or so. Until the early 2000s, the country's defense industry exports were mainly small arms and supplies, such as boots and helmets. The situation today is vastly different. In recent years, South Korea has been exporting heavy-duty military arms and vehicles, including fighter jets, submarines, and destroyers. This shift has dramatically boosted the nation's defense exports in dollar terms. In 2006, South Korea broke the $250 million mark for the first time. By 2011, this had jumped to $2.3 billion. And last year, the figure topped $3.4 billion. So what triggered the boom in sales?
Our prices compare favorably, and the nations that buy from South Korea are satisfied with what they get. All of our defense-related exports are used by the South Korean army and are proven for battle. Also, as a lot of countries in the Southeast Asia are locked in territorial disputes with China, many now buy their defense-related equipment and supplies from South Korea instead of China.
The spillover effects from the defense deals to the economy have been sizable. Take, for example, the sale of 24 Fa-50 fighter jets to Iraq in 2013. Now, this deal, worth over $1.1 billion, will develop a chain of suppliers networks and after-sale deals that are estimated to total more than $4 billion. This project has also created roughly 36,000 jobs. While this sounds great, South Korea still has a long way to go to reach the level of the major players in the industry. The country's exports accounted for a mere 0.8% of the world's total defense exports. The United States, Russia, Britain, Germany, and France together have a grip on 3/4 of the total global arms market. And the dominant powers aren't sitting back as South Korea tries to sharpen its competitive edge.
The United States, France, Britain, and Germany are watching South Korea very closely as they are competitors in the international arms market. Koreans should have pride in their defense industry and support government policies that make our country more competitive on the global stage.
South Korea has been successful so far, but to sustain and increase its share of the multi-billion-dollar arms market, the industry needs to diversify.
South Korea should open up to more markets in the third world. Most of them are in territorial conflicts and in need of naval equipment such as combat ships. In the future, we could make up to 3% of the total defense exports. But we need to invent new weaponry and upgrade our Korean-style weapons to meet global standards.
Competition is fiercer than ever, with Japan and China jumping into the defense market at full speed. For that reason, experts say the Korean government and the public need to stay committed and focused to maintain their growth in the international market. Kim Hyun-bin, ARIRANG News.
The holiday season is usually a good time for movie makers to cash in big. That said, there are a few new films that will hit local box office in the coming days. For more on those movies, we are joined by our Im Yoon-hee. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So today I have a few movies featuring some of Korea's hottest actors these days. So here's a look at what's going to come to box offices near you.
In the midst of the Korean War, during the Hungnam evacuation of 1951, thousands of Korean refugees were taken south. Amongst them, a boy named Tok-soo and his father. But when they realize their sister has gone missing, Toksu's father goes off searching for her and sends Toksu away with his mother and other siblings. The movie stars Hwang Jung-min and Kim Yoon-jin and shows the history of the Korean War through one man's life.
Even just the mention of the word dead stirs up emotions, so we thought about expressing that in the movie.
The Korean hanbok plays a role throughout Korean history, but just how big of a role can clothes really have? The new movie, The Tailors, is set in Korea's Joseon Dynasty period and features a story of the royal palace's hanbok artists. A rivalry sparks up between Do Seok, the current hard-working hanbok clothier, who's worked for the royal family for over 30 years, and the new free-spirited Gong Jin, a designer who recently captivated the attention of the entire palace.
It's about the kind of love we experience, the love between men and women, and the love that can transcend the classes.
Another movie to hit the silver screen soon is Criminal Designer. Ji-yeon is an ace safecracker, and he's recently set his eyes on the customs department at Incheon International Airport, where a potential heist sits with a price tag of over 150 billion won. However, customs at Incheon has some of the best security in Asia, and the crew only has an hour or so to do the job. The movie boasts a star-studded and young lineup with actors Kim Woo-bin and Lee Hyun-woo.
So Kim Woo-bin and Ji-yeon definitely are some of the hottest actors this year. But I've been actually looking forward to the film Sang-hee-won or The Tailors because I saw the trailer and it looked really interesting.
Yeah, people have been getting very excited for these movies, especially that one. So this movie is said to be one of the first silver screen features all about royal attire. And although it touches upon lots of other aspects of the royal family life, you know, it's a very interesting movie and you really get to see so many beautiful hanboks. And it said actually that they have more than 1,000 hanboks featured in this film. And the budget for that was over about almost at $1 million US. And so you can imagine you're going to see tons and tons of hanboks. And even the actors mentioned that they said that they really enjoyed filming this movie because they got to try on so many beautiful works.
Right. And the first movie, the title, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago too, but the Korean title is quite different from the English title. It's 국제시장, right?
Exactly. So
international market.
It translates to international market, but actually refers to an open market in Busan that is still there. And that market has quite the history. It was established there after the Korean War and was set up by people who wanted to sell some of the materials they got from the war just to, you know, make a living and get by. But when they filmed there, they said that they got a lot of support from the actual people who worked at the markets, and they were very supportive of the movie because they're featuring this small, you know, marketplace all over the world. You get to see it in the world showing movie, and so they're very excited about that.
All right, thank you very much, Yuni. I'm just sad that I have to wait until December 24th to wait for the movie, the Sang-hee-won, The Tailors, to come out.
It'll be here as soon as you know it.
Thank you very much, Yuni, for today's story.
Always a pleasure.
Happy Monday, everyone. I'm Michelle Park here with the latest weather forecast. We started off our Monday morning roughly 7 degrees warmer than yesterday, and our daytime highs are also expected to be higher, ranging from 3 to 10 degrees. However, we'll see quite a lot of precipitation, especially during the evening. Now, due to the relatively warm conditions, rain or snow will fall depending on the regions. And snow is coming down pretty fast here in Seoul. We're expecting up to 3 centimeters, while up to 20 is expected over Gangwon province. And looking ahead to the week, we'll be hit with a cold snap later on and with the highs staying in the negatives. Now, looking especially at the Wednesday temperatures, our morning lows are expected to be dropping down to minus 12 degrees. And going over to our readings for today, so we'll peak to 4 this afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Gwangju and Busan will reach up to 7 and 9 degrees. And moving over to other regions such as Jeju Island peaks to 11, Dokdo hits down to 6, while Nakhon peaking down to minus 3. Well, that's all for now. I'm Michelle Park, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world.
And that's ARIRANG News for now. Thanks for staying with us. I'll join you again from Seoul at 4 p.m. Korea time.